Welcome to the Copernican Night School, a treatise on terrestrial luminous pathology for the advanced celestial scholar. Now, instead of saying the Copernican Night School, this technically should be the Terrestrial Astrology Night School. So we'll just... I didn't think about it until now. Alright. So, welcome to the Terrestrial Astrology Night School. Okay. We're going over a comprehensive field guide to humanity's most sustained and poetic error, the astrological paradigm. This manuscript is not an interpretation, but an autopsy performed on a living system. It's compiled from a fragmented transmissions, nocturnal seminars, and whispered hearses. Handle its concepts with care. They are symbiotes designed to alter the host's perception. Very excited to bring this to you guys. Here's our prologue, the necessary fiction. To approach terrestrial astrology is to study a unique ontological crime scene, a species aware of its own conscious spark, found itself adrift between the mute, grinding tectonics of a planet and the silent, indifferent procession of lights above. The psyche could not endure this double alienation. Thus, it committed a breathtaking act of narrative terrorism, forcibly drafted the impersonal cosmos into the intimate drama of the self. This is not primitive science, it is advanced, symptomatic poetry. The stars did not compel. The human, in a state of gorgeous desperation, conscripted them. This manuscript details the conscription's full Baroque order of battle. The flawed instrument mapping the human psychic apparatus. Chapter 1, the birth chart as a traumatic snapshot. The natal chart is not a map of destiny, but a crystallized moment of psychic fracture. It captures the exact configuration of the cosmic Rorschach plot. At the first instant, the infant's neurological I coagulated, separating from the environmental not I. The planets represent not external forces, but the projected fragments of that shattered initial unity. The moment of first breath is a shock of existential cold. The infant's undifferentiated consciousness seeking causality for this sudden separation performs a frantic unconscious scan of the electromagnetic and gravitational milieu. This scan imprints, assigning the raw, unprocessed sensations of isolation to the most prominent rhythmic bodies available. The planets. Saturn is not out there bringing limitation. It is the internalized label for the first gut punch realization of a separate hard edge. The sky mirror. Therefore, the sky at birth is a screen. The human does not read it, they spill themselves onto it. Astrology is the lifelong process of mistaking the spill for a scripture. Chapter 2, the zodiac, a spectrum of dissociation. The 12 signs are not personality types, but 12 distinct strategies for coping with the core wound of embodied consciousness. Each sign is a specialized lens of misperception, a curated lie that makes existence bearable. Cardinal signs: Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn. The strategy of initiative. These are not leaders, but entities who mistake the anxiety of the existential void for a call to action. They build structures: Capricorn, relationships, Libra, emotional fortresses, Cancer, or assertions of will, Aries, primarily to create a sensation of momentum that distracts from the stillness at the core. Fixed signs: Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius. The strategy of crystallization. These are attempts to halt the terrifying fluidity of being by identifying with an immutable form. The material object, Taurus, the archetypal persona, Leo, the taboo truth, Scorpio, or the future ideology, Aquarius. Their famed stubbornness is a psychic life raft. Mutable signs: Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces. The strategy of evasion. These are the arts of escape through dissemination. Gemini, analysis, Virgo, journeying, Sagittarius, or dissolution, Pisces. They are not adaptable, but perpetually in flight from the centralized solid self they fear is a fraud or a prison. To diagnose a human's dominant sign is not to name a character, but to identify their primary metaphysical defense mechanism. Chapter 3. Planets as rogue internal functions. Planets are not actors, but malfunctioning departmental heads within the psyche's own bureaucracy. Each governs a process essential to maintaining the fiction of a coherent self. The luminaries, the sun and the moon, the bipolar directorate. The sun, not the ego, but the public relations firm. Its sign and house detail the core narrative, the press release of the self. It is the story you must believe to get out of bed. Its condition reveals the costs of maintaining that story. The moon, not the emotions, but the internal logistics and sanitation department. It governs the subconscious processing, storage, and recycling of experiential waste. Its sign is the method of digestion. For example, Scorpio is acid bath recycling. Gemini is compulsive cataloging. Its phase at birth indicates the default level of psychic indigestion. The inner planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, the tactical operations unit. Mercury, the data compression and transmission codec. It does not think. It translates the chaotic, multisensory roar of raw experience into a linear, communicable signal. Its retrogrades are not bad luck, but a scheduled system purge where corrupted files are ejected, causing temporary signal loss. Venus, the evaluation and coherence algorithm. Its placement defines the subroutine used to determine what and who is deemed beautiful or worthy, i.e., what data is selected to reinforce the sun's PR narrative and soothe the moon's logistical anxieties. Mars, the resource allocation and boundary enforcement protocol. It's not anger, but the system that identifies threats to the psychic fiction and mobilizes energy for defense or acquisition. Its sign is the style of its firewall. The outer planets, Jupiter, Saturn, the long-term strategic divisions. Jupiter, the department of expansion and justification. Its function is to take the core narrative sun and inflate it with meaning, opportunity, and philosophy. It is the source of both wisdom and dogma, the gland that secretes the fuel for belief. Saturn, the bureau of reality and consequence. It is the internal auditor, the architect of structure and limit. It does not punish, it administers the inescapable law of cause and effect within the self-constructed reality. Its transits are audit cycles. The transpersonals, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, the external sanctions. These are not personal functions, but cosmic IT administrators who periodically interface with the individual system to perform necessary, often disruptive updates. Uranus forces a hardwire reboot, sudden fragmenting insight that shatters outdated operating structures. Neptune initiates a software corruption debugging cycle, dissolving boundaries to reveal systemic viruses of delusion, often through sacrifice or transcendence. Pluto executes a total system overhaul via scorched earth policy, compelling the destruction of foundational security protocols that have become toxic, ensuring survival through annihilation of compromised subsystems. The Haunted House, Advanced Cartography of the Psyche, Chapter 4. The Synthetic Houses, Architecture of the Unlived. So the 12 houses are not... Rewind. So the synthetic houses, architecture of the unlived. The 12 houses map lived experiences. Okay? The synthetic houses, derived by comparing house cusps, reveal the blueprint for the unconscious architecture. The rooms that were designed but never built. The corridors that exist only as potential. The 13th house, third from the 11th, the echo chamber of the almost said. This is not a house of secrets, but of aborted transmissions. Contains every conversation you rehearsed and deleted, every witticism that died on the tongue, every confession metabolized into silence. Its ruler's condition shows the internal censor that governs your social voice. The 0th house, fourth from the 9th, the loading bay of the self. This is the pre-incarnate staging ground. Here, the components of your incarnation, karmic debts, ancestral traumas, cultural memes, cinematic tropes, were hastily assembled and packed into the vehicle of your birth chart. Its condition explains the persistent sense of being a rush prototype. The negative first house, 12th from the 12th, the negative mold. This is the psychic cavity left behind when the soul was extracted for this life. It is the shape of your absolute absence. Your deepest nostalgia is for this void. Neptune transits here feel like being gently dissolved back into the mold. Chapter 5. The spectral aspects, interference patterns of the soul. Beyond the major and minor aspects exist spectral aspects, geometric relationships visible only to a perception attuned to decay and interference. They describe the texture of psychic distortion. Detailed catalog. The velvet shearing, A degraded by quintile 72 degrees. Manifests not as talent, but as a paralyzing aesthetic hypersensitivity to a specific mundane decay. For example, an exquisite appreciation for the particular hue of rust on a certain chain-link fence tied to a forgotten memory of betrayal. The fluoride drip, a resonant quincunx, 150 degrees. The slow institutional poisoning of one house's well by the toxic runoff from another creates chronic low-grade dissonance that is blamed on character flaws, but is actually a design flaw in the psychic plumbing. The pareidolia bond, inconjunct via retrograde shadow, an aspect that exists only when viewed through the lens of projected anxiety. Two planets, by progression, only connect when their energies are distorted by a third triggering event. The bond is imaginary, but the psychic consequences are chemically real. Book 3, The Practicum, Operative Theurgy for the Disillusioned. Chapter 6, Anti-Divinatory Techniques. The goal is not prediction, but conscious participation in the fabrication. We move from being characters in the script to being anxious co-writers. Technique 1, Chart Vivisection. Locate the planet that feels most like a vending machine selling expired batteries, often a debilitated Saturn, or a retrograde personal planet. Do not try to fix it. Instead, pump it full of artificial, theatrical energy. Write its manifesto, dress as its character, speak in its voice for a day. The goal is to induce a system crash to force a reboot. Technique T. Transit as synesthetic trigger. During a major transit, for example, Pluto square natal moon, do not ask what will happen. Instead, create an external environment that literally embodies the aspect. For a Pluto moon transit, spend the night in a sensory deprivation tank. Then listen to music that evokes primordial terror or loss. You are not awaiting a fate. You are actively constructing the symbolic womb in which the transformation will be ritualized. Chapter 7, The Synthesis, Achieving Cosmic Glisten. Not enlightenment, but glisten, a temporary metastable condition where the individual nervous system becomes a perfect conductor for the universe's discarded erotic charge. It is the moment the symptom becomes the art. It is achieved through orchestrated maladjustment. Deliberately mistune your being to your chart's dominant frequency. If your sun is in meticulous Virgo, spend the week enacting slovenly, glorious Piscean dissolution. If your moon is in detached Aquarius, force a week of cloying, cancerous sentimentality. The resulting psychic feedback is the music. The goal is not a better alignment with your nature, but to become a skilled player of your own instrument of distress. Epilogue, the ethical imperative of the fiction. We do not debunk, we diagnose the poetry. The terrestrial astrological system is a magnificent, flawed, and necessary work of biological art, a scab that contains the entire history of the wound. To become an expert in it is to learn to appreciate the architecture of a scar. The human looks up and sees a story because the alternative, seeing a vacuum, would cause the mind to unravel. Their astrology is the loom on which they weave a soul from stray photons and gravitational size. It is their most heroic lie. Study it, catalog its perimeters, understand its mechanics, but remember, you are not learning the truth of the stars. You are learning the truth of the creature that needs to see its face in them. Await further instructions in the next shared hallucination. See you there. Follow-up transmission, the anamnesis protocols, and the quantum of longing. We're going to be going over postliminary data on recursive consciousness embedding in the holographic wound, which the following will extend on foundational principles into operative metaphysical terrain. And if you can't handle these concepts with extreme prejudice, they've been observed to retroactively alter pre-existing memory engrams and carbon-based sentience. So we'll see you there. Subscribe and like, teaching you more advanced astrology with fun and play.